What is going on, guys? Welcome to an impromptu special episode of Second Guessing with Stressan. I didn't plan on going live today, but I mean, as y'all saw, today was a crazy day, a crazy first day of free agency, uh, headlined by a shocking move that caught me completely off guard, and it seemed like it caught most people off guard, which was the Laremy Tunsil trade. I mean, I had to get on here and talk to you guys, and I know we've been chatting all day and sharing our thoughts, but I mean, wow, I mean, that was a move that I did not see coming. I got to take my medicine and admit that people had proposed that trade, and anybody who said that, I just called them crazy, dismissed the thought before I even entertained it. But I guess I'll kind of walk through my thought process. I'm actually working on my article too, which I hope to have up after this. But to me, it never seemed like a possibility. Like, my whole logic was, when someone would propose that, I would say, okay, my thought process was, we had a terrible O line last year, so why would you go and trade the best lineman, the best pass blocker on that roster to make things even worse? And then, we're trying to protect CJ Stroud. And to me, that would be risky, playing with fire. Now, you're in this win now mode, and now all of a sudden you have more holes to fill and things would be in flux. So I never even considered it. And so when the news happened, that was my thought process. Like, what are we doing? You just got rid of our best pass protector on a terrible O line. Now we have more holes to fill. And then that's why I said I was stressing. And then after that, I started guessing. I was like, well, let me sit down and think about this. And the more I dove into it, the more sense it made, and it was for several reasons. So, the first one I think is also the biggest, is a salary cap standpoint. This is something where I think Nick Caserio is definitely forward looking, and us as fans, we're so in the moment that we may not quite be thinking, this many steps ahead potentially. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, was, his play relative to his contract. And then the same reason why you're seeing all these players get shipped now is for contract extensions. DK Metcalf. I don't know if Geno Smith was the same way, but, a lot of these players, they want to get paid when the extension comes up. LT has a year left this year and a year left next year. So rather than wait until next year when he's, due for an extension before the season, you got ahead of it by addressing it now. And, it also coincides to thinking bigger picture of all the looming extensions we have. I mean, we've been seeing the crazy news of all these record-breaking deals. Josh Allen just signed a $55 million, highest guaranteed deal, 6 years. And so that means, okay, CJ Stroud's going to be due up next year. Like, that's a lot of money. And then you see J.C. Horn have a record-breaking, I believe it was, I think it was 35 million APY, or 25 APY, but he reset the market for a cornerback. Okay, Derek Stingley's all pro. He's due right now. We'll probably extend him in May, which is the timeline that we did with Nico last year. So we got that coming up. And then, you see Max Crosby resets the market for 35 million APY, for the highest APY for any non-quarterback. And so at defensive end, and then like 2-3 days later, Myles Garrett blows it out of the water by 5 million, 40 million APY for the highest APY for a non-quarterback. So we have the Josh Allen $55 million contract. We have the Myles Garrett $40 million APY contract, so for a quarterback, D end, and then we have J.C. Horn 25 for the corner. So 3 positions that we have to pay. One this year, so 25. Stingley will probably beat that. They also have the same agent, David Mulugeta. Derek Stingley's going to beat that. We've made it clear we want to extend him, which is the right move. Like, they've said all the things that's like a priority for them. And then next year, you got your 2 cornerstones, your former 2nd and 3rd overall pick, CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. 2 other very important positions, quarterback and defensive end, also due. So, I think they're taking all that into account. And so then you start to look at the contract with Laremy, the money we saved. I think it was roughly 41 million between the 2 years. So you also save some money now as to next year. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then if you think about it too, going, you kind of weigh the pros and cons I guess the next point, like I think is part of it as well, is the culture. I mean, it's no shock to me that that's been an issue. It's something that's been frustrating, like, and I've kind of struggled with, all right, like, I don't like seeing all this bad culture shit. Like, when I say culture, I mean, like, it just seems like lackadaisical, just whatever kind of effort, all the soft stuff that we see that pisses us off. Like, when you think of like a dominant O line, like everything we saw from our O line is like the exact opposite, which kind of reflects why they were ass this year. So, and D'Amico Ryans talks about it. Like, he talks about when he wants to, what he sees in an O lineman is them playing with nastiness. And the only guy he's referred to like that on our line is Blake Fisher, a guy that he drafted last year. And so, that's a big concern. There's a lot that goes into that too. And with, Laremy, you kind of deal with it because, he's a lockdown pass protector, but you can't help but think that these things factored in. I mean, if you're the alpha in the O-line room and you're getting paid $28 million a year and you're supposed to be this all pro, top tackle in the league, and whether you like it or not, you're the leader of that room. And if you're not a vocal leader, fine, but you lead by your actions. I mean, the guy would miss, and this isn't becoming like a hating on him thing. It's easier to say it in hindsight, but I'm just saying, like, now that you can justify the move with pointing these things out as well. So, I mean, like, when it comes to like training camp, like the guy never practiced. I mean, CJ Stroud's on podcast last spring talking about like, oh yeah, he's a vet. Like, he never practiced, like it was cool, like, which I guess it could be, but like, you can't do that then also play the way you did. But it sends a message. Like, if you're the leader and you should, like, oh, I'm gonna kick back, like, I'm good, y'all go practice, like, you're sending the wrong kind of message. And we have to remember too that D'Amico Ryans inherited Laremy Tunsil. So like, this had to have been like a tough conflict. Like, okay, this guy's elite, but he's not the swarm type of player that I want. So I guarantee you it's been like an internal struggle for him for so long. And then given the cap thing, it just made it a no-brainer. So, and then, the penalties goes along with that. That's leadership culture. Like, his penalties, they were, and I always defended him. Like, I'll take that over elite, with elite pass protection. But again, if you're like the leader of the O-line room, it had a trickle-down effect. It affected other guys, but it affected the offense overall. I mean, it killed a bunch of drives. He led the league in penalties, and they're all mental penalties. I mean, I don't know how many we're holding, but like, they're almost all pre-snap, whether it's false start or, not being set, or like, when they started doing, the alignment one, he got hit for that a couple times. So sorry, I need to catch my breath there. I'm talking real fast. I'm excited. But yeah, so that's a big part of it too. I'm sure it factored in. And, again, sending the wrong message. Just a lot of that stuff. And I know people pointed out, I know fans are very happy about this and have been irked by him. Like, I haven't been as much. I try to ignore like all that stuff, and they critique him for his off the field stuff. But like the post he made after the Christmas Day loss, I know that was a big. I doubt that went into their decision, but I know fans have pointed that out, where he posted the photo of the Beyonce sign, cleats, and that's just like being like tone deaf. Like, all right, bro. Like, and I get to, like, supposedly that post was like a paid promotion pre-planned, but still, it's like, all right, bro. Like, it's Christmas Day. We just got beat fucking 30 something to 2 or whatever it was. And it's like, kind of read the room type of thing. So, I mean, it's bittersweet. So then, yeah, like, after divulging into, cap, leadership, and then just thinking about it from this standpoint too, like, my next thought was like, okay, what is the O-line room going to look like going forward? Like, shit, like, okay, well, Titus has played left tackle, plays right tackle, plays guard. He's pretty versatile, but in 2021, he played like 200 plus snaps at left tackle, and he played pretty well. Okay, he can play left tackle. Blake Fisher played right tackle. He also played 44 snaps at left tackle last year, and one was in week 4 against Jacksonville. Didn't play that well. The next one was against New England. He played really well, and it was like 15, 16 snaps. So it's a small sample size, but you have options. You can play either one of them at either tackle. Like, we can get into that debate later. So, okay, that's pretty good. But now you displace Titus, obviously, from left guard, which is where he was, to left tackle. So you got left guard to fill. Center, you got Patterson. I mean, I think that was already their plan regardless. And then right guard, you had Shaq Mason. You cut him. And so you still have Kenyon Green and Juice Scruggs. Potentially, like, ideally, those two guys are backups. Scruggs can be a guard backup and or a center backup. And then Kenyon Green, you're stuck with the rookie contract. You might as well keep him as a backup. hope that you strike gold with Nick Caley in a gap scheme and they, fix him potentially. But, at the very least, if we have now via the trade from Laremy, we have more draft capital. And I'll get to y'all's comments in 1 second. I'm just going to finish this rant and then we'll get into comments. So with the Laremy Tunsil trade, you now have draft capital and you have more cap space. So if that's the case, now you can take that money, for this year and invest it in the interior. And I can't help but think, and I'll probably post a poll, and I know the answer is going to be overwhelmingly in one direction, but if you had to choose which part of your O-line was the weakest, would you choose for it to be the exterior, your tackles, or the interior? Maybe before this year, some fans would it would be somewhat of a debate, but after what we saw this year, having one of the worst interiors in the league, you by far would take a better interior and a worse exterior. First, it's numbers. You got 3 players in the middle. But second, proximity to the quarterback. If you get a pressure up the middle, you get there that much quicker. Third, you can't step up in the pocket. We saw that this year. So not only was CJ Stroud getting sacked and flushed out of the pocket, but another untalked about thing about these pressures, especially from the interior, because they're not as visibly noticeable, but when the pocket collapses on the interior and you're stepping up into the pocket, you can't finish your step up. You can't step into a throw. You get stepped on. How many times did we see CJ Stroud? We see a crazy throw, oh, what's wrong with him? And then you go back and look at oh, yeah, the guy fucking stepped on his foot. Or, oh, he tried to follow through and his hand hit a helmet. So yeah, that shit matters. So, and it goes back to last year, when we did the whole reshuffle and we had problems and we were all debating about, moving Titus to left guard, which I was a big proponent of. The mindset on that, and it's what D'Amico has said too, is how can we get the best 5? So again, similar to when we switched Titus from right tackle, who was playing good at tackle, to left guard and inserted rookie Blake Fisher at right tackle. Yes, we were going to have a dip in production at right tackle, but we were going to have a massive increase in production at left guard. So it's about the overall net benefit, the net good. So yes, you regressed a little bit in one position, but overall you're better. So if that same logic is now taken to what we just did, sorry, I just saw a question, got distracted. Yes, I will go live Wednesday. This is impromptu. I'm just pumped. But yeah, so basically the logic is, yes, you just lost Laremy Tunsil, all pro, or not all pro, Pro Bowler. He's up there, but he's not up there that high. He's not a complete player to be there. But the logic is you lose, but now you insert, Titus to left tackle. So you decrease marginally there. But now if you can go and get a Kevin Zeitler, who's my #1 free agent target, to be your right guard, or even a Will Fries, who may be more expensive. And then if you can draft a Tyler Booker, you can draft a Kelvin Banks. Now you can trade up because you got draft capital. You can draft Tate Ratledge. There's so many guys you can get. So you can, and then even then, and now you have Kenyon and Juice could even potentially battle with that rookie for the other guard spot. So if you were to tell me at left guard you would have Ratledge / Booker / any of these versatile first to second, third round tackle guards in the draft, and then a Zeitler / Will Fry / even another mid-tier veteran and Patterson at center, and then and the backups Scruggs and Green, and then you have no Tunsil and you have those as your tackles, I would take that. And then you consider the next year implications. So when you sit down and have a time to think about it, I'm blessing. Initially, never even considered it as a thought, so I didn't really have enough depth on the thought to really give you anybody an input. So then I dissected it and all right, this is actually pretty fucking legit, dude. So I like it. I feel like there was another point on it. I'm sure it'll come to me, but yeah, let me get to the comments, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I know it's been a long day. Shout out IG. We got some people on IG. Let's see. TK Albert says, what a day. Let's go. Chris says, I really like the Laremy Tunsil trade. I know Nick is going to cook. Facts. Chris says, I always trust Nick. That's what it is for me, man. I know it's easier said than done, and it's cliche, but trust them. Trust the process. Iram says, for receiver, we should just re-sign Diggs. We got more money now. I don't think he's a fit right now. I don't want him to be our primary outside receiver, but who knows? You'll see on IG if there's any more. Thank y'all for tuning in. But yeah, let me get to the comments on here. Let's run through them real quick. How how do I scroll through them? Let's not let me scroll through. Let's go to where's it at? Captions. Let's go to chat. There we go. Chat. What's good, chat? Shout out Brando, and we got RIP Lefties. What's up, brother? Edwin says shitty start to free agency. I disagree, man. And I get it, to each their own, but and maybe I'm boring because I try to be too realistic and aware of the situation, but I love it, man. I like the trade, and we'll go through the other moves here in just a second. I'll just go through my feed and we'll just talk about all the events of the day, but I'm blessing overall. Mr. Optimistic says Texans have 13 wide receivers on roster. Yeah, I saw Texans Cap post that earlier, and I guess maybe we can run through too and see who those are, but I'm sure a good portion of those are just practice squad guys. But that's something too, like, a lesson I learned last year diving into free agency. Like, every guy you get, you assume they'll be a starter. And, a lot of them don't even make the roster. You sign them to these 1 year, $1 million, $2 million deals, and then you cut them. And it's really like, you don't really spend much on them. So it's like you're a prisoner of the moment. It's like you get a shiny new toy and you just like want to imagine all these cool things that's going to happen. But, you kind of have to remember, like, all right, like, this is just competition depth. I mean, you have so many spots to fill in a roster before you get to your 53 man in the fall. So you might as well fill them out, obviously. So, but still, I mean, that's part of it. Yeah. Lefty says we're broke. That's right. Zintu says I'm still shocked from the Tunsil, but I know he's cooking something up. Yeah. And that's the other part too, is, you would hope that Nick Caserio wouldn't do something so reckless without having a plan. And I'm sure they have a plan, which it may just be those guys. I mean, but the other takeaway too is like, the biggest takeaway I have from this is it started back when D'Amico fired Bobby. I had this notion, I'm sure a lot of y'all did too, that D'Amico was this, super loyal guy, too nice, and we kind of just like made these assumptions based off of press conferences where, of course, he's going to give coach speak. He's mature. He's a man. He's not going to shit talk his OC or his players. So he's not going to throw people under the bus. So between that and like kind of his actions, we all assumed, most of us, like, he doesn't have, the balls to do certain things. And then, it first started with the Bobby Slowick firing. Well, I guess before that, the first press conference, after the loss to Kansas City, like, he was like visibly upset. And he's like, this is not good enough. He was well aware of our history, how we've never made it to the AFC Championship game. And, he basically like said, like, I'm going to do what it takes to get us there. And we're like, oh, shit, okay. And then he said, like, I'm evaluating everything. Like, voluntarily said, like, I'm going to look at, like, the coordinators. We're like, oh, shit, you're going to maybe fire Bobby? Like, nah, you're not going to do that, bro. And he's like, oh, I'm looking over for a week. And I was like, yeah, right. He's not going to fucking do that. Like, that's his best friend. He brought him from San Fran. They started their careers together, like, whatever. Like, so again, with that, I didn't even entertain the idea of looking at other OC candidates because I thought it wasn't going to happen. Maybe that's like a coping mechanism for me, but regardless, he did it, and that sent the message like, all right, this motherfucker's for real. I'm sorry, I'm pumped. I'm just going to cuss. I'll put the explicit thing on. Fuck it. Yeah, so he sent that message like, I'm for real, and that was like the first light bulb moment for me. And then, we started getting off season. And we're all looking at the O-line. We're all like, okay, Shaq Mason fucking sucked this year. We need to cut him. We're all like, I don't know, though, because that last week, he was hurt late in the year, and Juice Scruggs stepped in at right guard and played well. And we all thought for sure, Juice Scruggs would stay there. That was our best iteration of the O-line all year. Sure enough, they fucking start Shaq Mason against the Chiefs, and he fucking sucked again. Sorry, I can't help it, but it's probably tacky to cuss as much as that. I'll cut it back. But yeah, so anyways, like, so that tastes us on our mouth. And we're like, okay, like, he fired Bobby, but he kind of showed loyalty to Shaq Mason. They got ties with Shaq Mason to Nick Caley and Cole Popovich and Nick Caserio at New England. Like, I could see them sticking with him and, either trying to make it work out or something, like, preparing for the worst. And he cuts him. He cut him. Him and Nick cut him. That was awesome. That was another moment. Like, okay, he's serious. Like, but it was also like a no-brainer from like a cap standpoint relative to value. But still, it was a promising thing nonetheless. And then you fast forward to today, trading Laremy Tunsil, like the balls to have to trade Laremy Tunsil from the head coach and from the GM. I mean, he's the best. Like I said, it's a risky proposition, but, it also sends a very, very, very strong message. Hey, I don't care who the fuck you are. If you're Laremy Tunsil, I will fucking trade you. And it's not like, I guarantee you he's not going to say they'll probably deny any questions about, how much of a factor was the leadership and all that stuff and, penalties. They're just going to say, oh, it was all salary cap. I guarantee it's what they'll do, which is what they should do. But we deep down know that these things we're saying they factored into it because it all is part of the puzzle. Like, okay, these factor into your price, and yeah, it makes it easier to get rid of you. So, anyways, yeah. So that sent a strong message from D'Amico Ryans. If Laremy Tunsil can get the axe at any moment, I mean, that means, hey, look out. So I like that, and I had tweeted a tweet too because when Laremy was like in the middle of the season when these penalties were just like through the freaking roof, like a lot of people, we're all pissed off, but like people were saying like, all right, like hold him accountable. And we're all criticizing D'Amico for just letting it happen. And I honestly think it was like kind of similar to like Bobby Slowick. Like Bobby sucked. And like, I'm like wanting D'Amico to step in and start changing shit, but like he never did. He basically just let Bobby kept doing shit. Same thing with Laremy. Like he could have stepped in, benched him or reprimanded him. But he didn't. He let him, and he got it figured out, to an extent. But like in my eyes, like he basically gave both those guys their rope to hang themselves with. It's like, all right, like I'm not like here to babysit you. Like if you can't fucking do it, then we're gonna move on. So, but yeah, I mean, so that sends a big message like, hey, like anybody's liable to get moved at any point, and I don't think he has to like say that. Like he doesn't have to go into meetings like, hey, y'all saw what Laremy was doing and how he was bad. If you do that, I'm gonna trade you. Like, I don't think he has to say that. I think it's like unspoken, like, all right, like I gotta be about my shit or I could be gone. And that's all that needs to be done. And whether that's 80%, 20%, however much percentage of the reason why he's gone, it still sends a good message. And then there is the concern though, too, like how that shakes up the locker room. Like we saw Joe Mixon on Instagram was like, hell nah. So I mean, like again, that just speaks to the fact that like you made a tough decision in the best interest of the team, knowing that it's going to piss people off. I'm sure CJ Stroud might feel a certain type of way, but hopefully, I would assume CJ, is probably upset, but I'm sure they've talked to him and I'm sure it's all good. But yes, I mean, you do kind of risk some there, but it's also like, all right, like it is what it is, like, hey, be good at your job. Like, and so like as bad as Laramie's contract was, I mean, if he played better and didn't have penalties and was a better run blocker, and was a leader and, practice all the time, then you could justify that value. So like, it's all relative, like, or if his contract was lower, but like at that price, he was not worth that price to us. Like, so, I mean, that's on him. I mean, but we're going to extend Will Anderson Jr. That's because his play is worth it and his character and his leadership and his culture is worth it. So, I mean, it all goes together. Yeah. So appreciate y'all tuning in, man. We got 787 live on the main, and I'm sure we got some on TikTok too. I didn't know if it would be a big hit or not. I guess everyone's like me, man. I've been on my phone all fucking day, dude. It's just crazy. And like Mr. Optimistic said too, like how crazy was it that exactly at fucking 11 o'clock, we've been waiting all fucking month for free agency to start, and Twitter's fucking down, dude. Like what in the fuck? And supposedly it was like some cyber attack. Like I think I got like a theory, like maybe it was like big media, like NFL Network and ESPN. Like they get tired of like, Twitter getting all the news and the traction that they want you to watch TV. So they fucking shut down Twitter. But nah, that was crazy. We got Nick cooking, can't pay everybody. Royal says, like I said before, I don't know where Casario going with this, but I'm riding. I mean, people can call that like dumb to like just put blind faith in him, but it's also like, what the fuck can we do? But no, I mean, has a track record, in my opinion, where you should trust him. It's him and D'Amico too. And also, I wonder how much of this is from Nick Caley. I mean, I'm sure he came in and kind of did like analysis of the current room of like everybody and is like, I like this guy, I don't like that guy. And like, or they ask him like, hey, would you be fine trading this guy, that guy? So, I mean, I guarantee you his input was considered as well. So that's something to note. Shout out Brandon. He says Titus and Schultz are next. So that's the other point too, is like, this also sends a message to me, like before, like, I thought they operate in a certain way, like anything can fucking happen now. Like you could cut Titus, you could cut Schultz. And so like when Bobby was fired, that was my first thing was like, who's next? And I thought it was like Schultz, but like now it's like shit. Like I won't be surprised by anything. Like I start thinking about this team with a certain train of thought, like, oh, they won't do this, they won't do that. Like now I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're gonna do. It could be anything. But then also like, as far as like rebuilding our O line, like I mentioned, putting Titus and Fisher at tackle. I mean, we could go sign a tackle in free agency. I mean, I know the market's not great, but like there's a lot of options to what we have to do, and I'm excited about it, like the mystery and the intrigue. But I feel good about the situation. I understand people who are stressing about it. I'm sure you'll come around, but I feel like most people are blessing about it. Yeah, so Sting's going to get paid. Culture change for this offense. Texans need a road grader run game to match this defense. And that seems to be Nick Caley's mindset. He talks about wanting to run the ball and he likes tight ends and all that stuff. So ain't no checking me on IG says, sure hope Nick is cooking. And then Frankie Giro says Kelvin Banks. Yeah, so Kelvin Banks, I mean, he's somebody that I would like. Before I was like opposed to trading up for a tackle, but like if he's there and I kind of said this in an article too, if he's there at like 20 and now you have extra picks, fucking trade up and get him, man. I mean, that's a game changer, dude. Or I mean, who's to say they don't trade up in the top 10 and go get the Will Campbell? Yeah, I mean, shit. Like they could do whatever, man. My hands are just going crazy today. I'm so pumped. BG, shout out BG. He said he never stood up and said, I need a fix. Yet he reflected on someone else's rest. That's true. He was not accountable too. So, I mean, like, that's not being a leader, right? Mr. Optimistic says you can't say Swarm and Texans aren't for everyone and ignore the lackadaisical attitude on the O-line. That's true. So D'Amico was saying shit and he backed it up, But like the other part of this too is like we have to remember like a lot of these players D'Amico inherited. Like he inherited Laremy Tunsil. He inherited Titus Howard. And so it's the fine balance of you just don't clean shop. You kind of take what you have. And we talk about this swarm culture. It's going to, and I've made this point before, like it's going to take time for D'Amico Ryans to fully build the team how he wants it. Like you can't just overnight and be good. You can't just overnight do a whole new team and bring in all the guys you want. It's going to take time. And eventually you got that foundation and then you get the next layer, the next layer, the next layer. And next thing you know, you got a fucking solid team of all the types of guys that you want. And so we're slowly getting there. This is like another big year. And so I think that's, this will be year 3. And we've already won 2 playoff games, one each in the first 2 years. Like we are on a good fucking path, dude. Like, I mean, I think we can all agree that D'Amico's a damn good head coach. And when you listen to him speak and you kind of like see the kind of person he is and you hear about this swarm shit, like this motherfucker knows what he's doing, dude. And like, he's a good dude. He's getting people that love fucking playing football, that work hard, that play their ass off, practice hard. And it's just taking time to like, slowly solidify that. And like with each passing year, we're going to be better and better. And that'll give us more and more long-term success. So, yeah, I'm pumped, dude. Unknown says he's stressing, been live. I've only been live for I don't know how long, but I've been rambling the whole time. Let's see. RIP says, I think we might get Zeitler and Fant maybe, but everything else will be in the draft. Yeah, I mean, we got to get Zeitler. Fant, I'm down for it too. Again, if you get a tackle, now you can kick Titus back to guard or it's just a swing tackle. Yeah, we're doing live Wednesday. BG says, that's right, optimistic. Maybe I should, damn, there's a lot of comments. Shout out the chat. I mean, usually I like to read them all, but everyone's fucking lit right now. Unknown says, bro, our O-line right now, how it's starting. We got Blake Fisher, Kendrick Green. Kendrick Green is not on the roster. I think you mean Kenyon Green. And then Third Coast says, really hope we can get rid of Schultz, go get Mayer. Yeah, I mean, now I'm like, hey, man. And I guess, too, like with those savings, you can afford to eat dead cap on some of these contracts that you might not have wanted to earlier after this Laremy trade. So, I mean, anything could happen. This is crazy. Someone asked if I would mind Justin Reed back. I wouldn't mind him at the right price. I feel like he may be too expensive at first glance. And then Dime says, yo, shout out Dime. And then Brandon says, Caserio is being very proactive. I think that's the key word in all of this. Like he is very forward thinking. And so I also made a tweet and had this thought. And, it's just a thought. And so, last year when we drafted Blake Fisher in the second round, and we would see people doing mock drafts saying we needed a tackle. We're like, oh, these guys are stupid. We don't need a fucking tackle. We need this and that. Turns out we needed a fucking tackle. But no, so like, but when Blake Fisher was drafted, we all thought, oh shit, this is the writings on the wall for Titus Howard. This is his replacement. Like, he's fucking gone. Like, if they're not going to cut him this year or trade him, he'll be his replacement next year. And then, come the season, shit hits the fan. O-line's terrible. Titus goes to left guard, and so now he's forced him to line up at right tackle. And then, going into this year, we're like, okay, it's going to be the same lineup. And, but basically the thing is, like, we all thought he would replace Titus, but like, as it stands now, in a sense, he just replaced Laremy, and he replaced more so his contract, obviously, than anything. But that also makes me think, like, did Caserio think? I don't think he did this solely with that plan. Like, I'm going to draft him and then trade Tunsil, and he'll be his replacement. I think he said, he's talked about it too multiple times, is he likes to have 3 good tackles on a roster, which is smart. I mean, the year before you had injuries, you had Titus got hurt, so then you had Fant step in at right tackle, who was a good third tackle. So it's basically from a depth and insurance for injuries standpoint. But then he also did it in the sense that, like, now you have options to get rid of guys that have big contracts like Laremy. So, so I think that he did it with that, and then it kind of played itself out. Like, he could have been a replacement for Titus if Titus was terrible or if his contract was unbearable, which it kind of is. But now Jacob had pointed this out too. Like, if you now go take Titus from right tackle to left guard to left tackle, he becomes like the 16th highest paid left tackle. So all of a sudden now, like, all right, if he can produce at a decent level at left tackle, that contract's more bearable. Whereas he was like number 6 highest at right tackle. So it's all relative. But BG says he's blessing. Rudy Rosales says maybe bring back George Fant. I'm a fan, dude. I mean, he was solid. That O-line that he was on the year before was fucking better than the one we had now. So, and then you could kick Titus into guard. There's a lot of options, man. I'm excited. Royal says, I would assume that Kaylee and Cole have something going where they should mix something up to protect CJ. Yeah, I mean, one sec. Let me get a sip of water here. I've talked about it. Like, I'm optimistic, like, just from, the scheme, the new scheme alone, past, like, I think it starts with running the ball. I feel like we'll run more gap scheme, which is what our line is better suited. They're more of the maulers. And so that's twofold. You become more effective at running the ball, which gets you in fewer third and longs and second and longs. It's more second and shorts and third and shorts. So now you're not as predictable. So they don't know you're passing. So now you have, the defense has less of an advantage on the pass rush. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is you run more gap scheme. Typically the type of running you do, whether it's gap or zone, when you run play action, you block a certain way based off of that run that you run the most to trick the D line into the play fake. And so when you run wide zone, you typically slide protect, because slide protection is like a zone pass protection, and it looks like a zone blocking. And so that's the one where you're having to think more and pass guys off more and make all these bullshit adjustments. But now if you run gap, which is basically man blocking, hey, block this fucking guy in front of you. And then that coincides with man-on-man blocking in the pass scheme, which is typically, hey, block this man in front of you. Something they're better at physically, and they don't have to think as much. It's, it makes it easier. Like, and it's not as simple as that, but it's to an extent. So with that being said, running more gap scheme will make it easier. So you can, first run the ball better because it better suits our O-line and get in better positions. Second, now when you run, now the pass pro blocking is man blocking as opposed to slide protection. So we'll have better pass protection. And then CJ Stroud is projected to have control of the offense, from everything I understand. He had none with the San Francisco scheme with Slowick. And then now you see Stafford and other quarterbacks in this McVay scheme get to have control, get to be involved in the protections, can change it or call it. There's more hot routes readily available. So I think just from that alone, it was already going to be better. So we're good, man. I hate this, dude, because my favorite part of like everything I do is like interacting with all y'all. Like, y'all are all fucking awesome. Y'all have a lot of great takes and comments and questions. And there's so many comments that like it's stressing. I'm stressing that I can't read them all. Like I guess I'm like obsessive too. Like I like to see everything, and so it's killing me that I'm not seeing them all. If you have a question or a comment that I'm not answering, just fucking spam it and I'll get to it. And I'm amped today, dude. I'm sorry for the profanity. I sound like a loser, but I can't help it. I'm working on it. Uh, let's see. Dot says, God forbid Nico goes down for any reason. We're cooked. Uh, it's day one of free agency. Like, chill. We're good. And then also, too, I mean, Justin Watson, I think, is a sneaky underrated pick. It's crazy. Like these guys we're getting are like these guys that I've always liked that I thought didn't get as much love as they should. Like Christian Kirk, I thought he was extremely underrated. Didn't get the love he deserved. Justin Watson, I feel the same way. I mean, I felt like the Chiefs should have involved him more, but like he was always making big plays for him. But I think that he could be a starter for us at Z, honestly. And I mean, I know some people think he may be a special teamer or just a depth piece, but I talked about how we got the veteran slot in Kirk. I was like, okay, now, and like he's like a legit starter. I was like, okay, now we should get, like a lower, cheaper Z receiver that's a bigger body. I was saying to Marcus Robinson because he was at, the Rams, he would fit seamlessly. And so I was saying him, but then I didn't even think about Justin Watson. But Justin Watson's fucking genius, dude. He's a big body receiver. He's 6'2", like 215. And so like with that other outside receiver, that Z receiver, they like to use the insert motion where they come into the box and they, go up to the C gap and block backers or edge nickel defenders, and then they'll run routes off of that. So like they're bigger physical guys. So like he could thrive in that role. And I really think that he didn't get the shine he should have got in Kansas City. So I don't think like he needs to be like our dominant guy. But my approach was you get a veteran who's smart enough and kind of can fill that role, and then you draft a guy. And so now you draft a guy the second, third, fourth round to play that other outside position as well. But the pressure is off of them to say, hey, come in and start right away. You can now kind of be like a hybrid with that veteran. So I think that Watson is like a legit piece. I think people are sleeping on that. But yeah, I mean, shout out PG. He's saying that. And then Prince doesn't like it. Shout out Prince. Thanks for tuning in, bro. He says if Justin Watson isn't starting, I'm gonna throw up. And Prince, you had a fucking funny reply on my. I posted the video of Barrios's girlfriend making the video. He had a pretty funny meme response. He cooked me on that one. Let's see. Y'all think we go on a line tomorrow? I hope that we get Zeitler, dude. I really hope that we get Zeitler. I need to get my YouTube up where I can do super chats, not for like the money, just so I can see like the most important comments because I feel bad right now. Let's see. Watson is borderline the best receiver in the league at corner routes. This guy is absolutely elite at this one route. Hey, man, fuck it. Run his strengths. Just keep running corners and run fakes off of it. Corner post, corner comeback, Over on IG, Rich says Tunsil's gone. Red's got a trash player. Yeah, they're in for surprise. Too Crazy says, how do you feel about the Laremy Tunsil trade? I feel good about it. I feel great. But yeah, let me I'll keep scrolling through some here. Let me check on my TikTok crew, make sure they're not asleep at the wheel. I still know I'm here. But yeah, I mean, I feel good. The same thing kind of applies that I like to preach, and I know it's annoying. I'm like that annoying uncle or dad or whatever, but I'm like preaching patience, I understand it's tough to see like all these teams making big moves, trading for this guy, signing that guy, and we're, got rid of a player and then sign, some depth guys that maybe have some high upside, but it's trust the process. And that's why I did that article, basically outlining last year's outline compared to, I guess to help us with this year's outline to kind of predict. It's not going to be a carbon copy every year, but like the biggest takeaway was patience. We didn't even trade for Diggs until like mid-April before the draft. And, before that you would be like, man, our team sucks. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind too. Like things can change. And I think that's part of what Caserio does is like, that's a trait that I've observed that I like and appreciate as a fan of my GM is, and like from his talk too, like, there's one thing that's for sure is there's two things. One, he's a value whore. He's looking for the best fucking value all the time. Christian Kirk, my opinion, great fucking value. Justin Watson, great fucking value. Trading Laremy Tunsil early before his contract comes up for an extension, before he needs to be extended next year. Pause. Trading him early in a market where there's no fucking left tackles. Now he becomes the best left tackle available by far. You get some return out of it. That's a value whore move right there. Justin Watson, I said. Anyway, so he's always about value, and he will never overreact or panic. He's not a prisoner of the moment. He will be patient and sit back. He'll wait. He won't overpay for anything. And, you might miss out on some stuff because of that, but overall, that's still a good thing. And we can argue but you can tell that's kind of like the way he approaches things. Like last year with Saquon Barkley, that was my number one target. And we saw him go for X million per year. I'm like, well, we could have done that. And then next thing you know, you wait, and then Joe Mixon's available. So, I mean, that's like the kind of, thing. The way to look at this is like, if we were to do everything we wanted to do, we would have fucking 20 receivers on the roster right now. Like, sign this guy, sign that guy, sign this guy, sign that guy. It's like, it's never ending. It's like, it's nice to this is the fun part though, is you get to imagine this guy on your team, but it's like, all right, you can't just fucking sign every player. And so it is good to have someone who's rational, can logically think through stuff. Is this a good deal? Is it not? Okay, no, I'll wait. There might be some other options. And so it's going to take time. We're in good hands. That's my rant on that. Shout out Sideline Sarah. If it's hard for him to run block, knee issues, since we want to be a run heavy offense. This was mentioned in JA's article when looking for an OC. Washington might be a better scheme fit. Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. And then, because they are more of a spread offense. And so, they'll take pressure off of them. They get the ball out quick. Royal says Stressan's becoming one of the best in the game right before our eyes. Hey, appreciate it, bro. Prince, you're a fool, dude. That shit was funny. Engineer said, I already got that. Let's see. Unknown says, Garrett, how do you feel like a guard like James Daniels or Will Fries? James Daniels signed, and it was a steal. It was like $8 million APY. Will Fries, I would love. My number one is Zeitler. I like Zeitler from the play over Will. And the pay is expected to be lower, but I would be happy with either or both. But to me, Zeitler is I know people talk about age, but it's we need help right now. I could give a damn about, getting a long-term solution. If he's cheap, if he's 8-10 million APY, and he's 35, but he just had his best 2 years back to back, sign him to a 1 year, 2 year deal, and that allows you more flexibility. That's my ideal one. Shout out the guys on TikTok, Michael Stout, The Butcher, Samurai, appreciate y'all tuning in. Flacco, appreciate you. Jacoby, Mr. PMP, that's a hell of a name. Shout out Mr. PMP. Shout out Marco's mid takes. I'm sure your takes aren't mid, bro. Give yourself some credit. I'm just going to start shouting out names at the least in case I don't get anybody. So shout out Stay True 222. Unknown, he's a regular. Appreciate you. Brendan Hallman, he's the OG of Texans content chats. Sideline Sarah, Forever Royal, Prince, Engineer's my guy. He's always tuning in with some good thoughts. There's a guy named Dot or Period. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's just a period. Shout out RIP Lefties. That's his name. Henry Jack, he says Emeka Ibuka. I don't know if we'll get him or not. Shout out PG. That's my guy, PG. He says Justin Watson, aka Chris Hogan. I love it. Yeah, and I saw someone earlier said Kevin Walter 2.0. And I was like, damn, that's a really good comp. Big white guy, not the fastest. First one in, last one out. Lunch pail guy, coach's son, hard worker, real intelligent, real smart guy, all that stuff. No, but I mean, yes, they are both white, but they're also a similar build, and they kind of have a similar skill set. So that was a great comp. Shout out Suave Montre on IG. Now I'm waiting to see what they're going to do with Howard. Yeah, I mean, who knows? And so I think the situation with Howard as far as cutting isn't the best. But yeah, let's do a couple of screen sharings here. And let's see. Let's pull up Spotrac on here, or not Spotrac. Over the cap. I may have showed y'all this, but I will show y'all now. Let's see. Share screen, and let's go to here. And then unknown says, so nothing is official till what, Wednesday, right? Yeah, they can't like officially sign, but I mean, I think it's very rare things change. And that's the other thing too is I guess that's what we'll do right here. So Texans cap, I mean, we're all asking a bunch of questions and he only has so much information, but he gave an estimate of what we may have cap space wise currently. And I assume that includes the Laremy Tunsil. Why is it doing this shit? Sorry, I'm trying to get it to where it's decent. That'll work here. Anyways, he gave us an estimate of what he thinks the cap is. He said like 13 million. I assume that includes the money we gain from cutting or trading Laremy, and all the guys we sign, which to me would be good. But in order, you have to have enough money by the time you officially sign the player. And so, with that being thought about, the draft coming up, with potential Stingley extension coming up, with the need to still sign more players coming up, you would think that we need to get more money. How can you do that? You can restructure guys. And if you go to overthecap.com and you go to teams, you can click on the Texans, the best team. You can close out the ad, and then you can over here on the right, it's like a drop down menu, and basically like it shows you all the options. So the preset option is I'm just going to go to the big screen so y'all can see it real quick. Maybe take the comments down for a second. Let's see, overlay. There we go. Yeah, so basically the preset option, like Danielle Hunter, and it's got it ordered, off base salary, the highest one. So Laremy was our highest base salary, 29 million. Now the next highest guy is Danielle Hunter at 19 million. So he was by 10 million the highest. But so yeah, if you were to cut Danielle Hunter pre-June 1st, you would have 35 million in dead cap and negative 12 million in savings. I don't know how that makes sense. But like Titus Howard right here, that's who we're talking about. If you were to cut Titus Howard with a pre-June 1st date, you would have 21 million in dead cap and you would save 2 million. And so like the way dead cap works is basically like from the cap's perspective, like money you've already allocated or accounted for paying that player. And that's like within, signing bonuses or other kind of bonuses. So, and then now when it comes to trying to, you can check down here. You can go to cut post June 1st, Titus Howard. If you were to cut him with a post June 1st designation, which is what we did with Shaq Mason, you now can spread the savings over this year and next year. Or I'm not sure if it's this year or next year, or the year and the year after, but you spread it over 2 years. But you don't get those cap savings immediately. You get them after that June 1st date. But for the player, if they are cut with a post June 1st designation, they can still sign with the team before that date. So it's kind of some stuff I've just learned. I'm sure a lot of y'all already know this, but Titus Howard, though, if you were to cut him post June 1st, you could save 14 million, but not until after June 1st. You wouldn't be able to get that cap money, but you would have 8 million in dead cap. And so this is all like, I think it's just standard formulas and they just calculate it based off the contracts. And then they have like the same thing for trade. If you were to trade a guy pre-June 1st, which Laramy's gone, he was on here, it kind of shows the dead cap and the cap savings. And then same thing for post-June 1st. But this is where is a cool option is restructure. And so from my understanding, from watching Texans Caps videos, if y'all haven't on YouTube, watch them or just research. My understanding with the restructuring, the way it works is, if you first off, a restructure candidate has to have base salary money left to convert into a signing bonus. So like if you've already restructured this player a lot, or if their contract was heavily bonus laden, or if they're on the last year, you can't restructure them. But the other step after that is like, first, financially, it has to make sense. The second thing, from my understanding, is a candidate for restructure would be somebody that you consider to be in your long-term future. I mean, you don't have to, but more often than not, it would make the most sense for you to do that. The reason being is, um, basically, it's like this. From my understanding, that the more I'm learning about cap, like all this finagling and restructuring and this and that, it's all about kicking the can down the road. Like, you have to pay this player X amount over X amount of years, at least this much guaranteed, and it's a matter of whether you want to pay it now or later. And so you do these gymnastics of like, all right, I'll just defer it, defer it, defer it, and so that's what you would do if you were to restructure a guy. You basically would. And it's also two separate things. You have like cash and cap. So it's kind of confusing. Like, none of this affects the player. Like, the player is going to get paid what they're supposed to get paid regardless. But the cap is just like for our team, accounting. So that is two separate things too as well. But basically, a restructure, though, you have Daniil Hunter has $19 million in base salary. He's already had a prorated bonus for 4.2 million, or he has a prorated bonus for 4.2 million. So, and then a per game bonus. So I'm pretty sure, his guaranteed salary is 19 million and his cap number is 23.7. But if you were to restructure him, where basically you can convert his bonuses into like, cashing it out, you could save 13 million. And so I'm not going to talk too much on it because I don't know this 100%. I have like a basic, decent understanding, but basically the restructure tool, you want to do it for guys that you think will be here long term, because you're basically backloading their contract essentially, and you're just kicking the can down the road. And it wouldn't be wise to do that, or you're not backloading, you're actually front loading it. So I think you're creating more dead cap down the road is what it is, because basically the more money you've like quote unquote cashed out or paid that player in bonuses, you have that much invested in them. It makes it that much harder for you to justify getting rid of them. So that's, hopefully I didn't mess that up, or I messed it up and I corrected it, but hopefully I didn't mess your brain up with that. Or if you don't know what I'm talking about, fuck it, who cares? It's all bullshit anyways. It's all was it fairies and pixie dust? I'm thinking of Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe that's not the quote, but he does something on that, McConaughey. Anyways, yeah. So if you want to restructure a guy, you more than likely want to be someone that you have in your long-term plans, because you're going to be investing in them now. Not necessarily with the cap hit, but with the bonus side. But yeah, I mean, the candidates right here on overthecap.com, you can click this drop down, click restructure. We could save 13 million by restructuring Daniil. You can also basically, like, I think, do this similar approach by extending and then blending, like extend them and then restructure it and defer the money later. But this is just simply a restructure. And then from my understanding too, from learning, that's what it is. Fugazi. Thanks, Brandon. I knew I wasn't too far off. You got me. Fugazi. But yeah, but from watching Texans Caps videos, what was I going to say? I was talking about the restructuring. Yeah, and so that's the other misconception is like, oh, that player has to agree to it, and oh, if they do restructure, he agreed. What a great guy! Like, he took less money or this or that. It's all the same for the player. I don't even think they have to like agree on it, because if anything, it's better for the player because it means they're more committed to you. So, and you get more guaranteed money. There's less risk of you leaving money on the table later. So, I mean, if they restructure you, it's a good thing as a player. You're, seeing that I guess you're still getting paid the same, but, they are more invested in you and they don't want to cut you later. That's kind of my understanding. It may not be 100% true, but the notion is, it's two separate. There's a misconception that if you restructure a player, they have to agree with it and it affects their pocketbooks, which it does not. So, point being, we can, for Titus, we could restructure him for 10 million, which I think he was debatable to be restructured by Cap, because he was saying, I'm assuming is because he doesn't know if he's a part of our long-term plans, and you don't want to become heavily invested and now be stuck to wanting to have to extend him again or keep his contract for longer. But the prime candidates are Daniil Hunter with a restructure or a extension with the restructure, and then Christian Kirk a restructure would work. It would save us 9.8 million. Dalton Schultz, he's not part of our long-term plans. You don't want to restructure that. And then, yeah, so you got a couple options for money through a restructure through the Neil Hunter, Christian Kirk. We already did it with Aziz Alshire. We already did it with Nico Collins. And so a couple other options are cuts. I mean, I think Kat brought this up today, and I was actually thinking this too, but we need more money, and we heard people talk about it, and we thought it was crazy. But Danico Autry, he's a cut candidate. If you were to cut him pre-June 1, and I started to think about it too because I overanalyze shit, but like I started seeing us signing these D linemen. We signed 2 edges today, and then we have, and we signed. I'm talking too fast. And we signed Sheldon Rankins. And so you also we got 3 D linemen today, and we're going to carry like 8 to 9 more than likely on the 53 man eventually. But so I was kind of like wondering, okay, they're adding a lot of D linemen. But anyways, if you were to cut the Nico Autry, I'm not saying I'm for or against it. It's just an option we have available to create more cap for us. With the pre-June 1st designation, you would have dead money in 4.5 million and you would save 5.8 million. But if you did a post June 1st, you would save, I mean, that makes sense. It depends on how much you value. And then again, if this is an option, you sit there and you think, okay, we got Danico, he's at this price. What is his level of play in comparison to his value of his contract? Is, you kind of weigh the pros and cons, and then you'd look at, okay, what can we replace him with if we were to cut him the same level of play? Is there a player out there with a better valued contract? I mean, so like all these things are moving parts. People are always expendable at any moment. So, I mean, it's got to be a crazy thing to be a GM. Like you're just cutthroat. You're looking at numbers almost most of the time. But if you were to cut Danico Autry post June 1st, again, these savings we would not have access to this cap until after June 1st. You would only have 1.5 in dead cap, but you would get almost 9 million in savings. So those were just some options. I will also run through my timeline just to kind of go over some of the news of the other signings. Shout out Bo Diggity. He says Stressan's up late with the knowledge. We Stressan or blessing. We blessing, brother. How you feeling about the trade, man? Let me know. Trade and the signings. I feel good, man. But yeah, let me get to my timeline here. And I'll share this instead. But, oh, sorry. Sarah said, what does Tim Settles look like? And she's asking about if we were to trade him. So that's a good question. Tim Settle. But I think, guys like Tim Settle, I mean, his base salary is 2.2 million. So, I mean, like, they got extreme value on that contract. But if they were to trade him, we would have $1 million in dead money and save $3 million. I don't know any other guys. Jimmy Ward, I don't know if we would trade, but let's look at cut. Jimmy Ward, if you were to cut him pre-June 1st, you would have 4.6 in dead and 1 million in savings. If you were to cut him post-June 1st, that doesn't even make sense either. It would be 4.6 in dead and 1 million in savings. So he's not a candidate at all. But yeah, so it's a cool site. I mean, I've always knew about it, but I just like figured out these little tools on there. So, but anyhow, we'll look at the timeline, go through some news. Let me hit some questions real quick. There it is. Sleepy says the cap is Fugazi. It's fairy dust. We trade Titus for Garrett. For me or for Garrett Wilson? Let's see. I missed a couple comments up here. All right. Let's see. Unknown says, I remember when they said we were going to go get Saquon last year. That's the other thing, too, is like, I was like, I had Saquon propaganda like every day. I mean, because, my analysis was that the biggest weakness of our offense was our run game. Obviously, O-line has to be good, but Saquon would, elevate that O-line. But everyone was like, oh, he's injury prone, this and that, and this and that. And then, like, I kept saying, like, it's all bullshit. Like, these injuries get overvalued every fucking year. You're like, oh, you missed so many games and this and that. It's like, but if you like dive into these injuries more often than not, like I'm big on, y'all know I always preach it, like whether it's soft tissue or like an actual physical injury. But like if someone like tears an ACL or like breaks a collarbone, like Christian Kirk, like I don't think that means you're injury prone. It's just like a violent sport, just bad luck. But what I would say is, Saquon, everyone was calling him injury prone. Like he didn't have a lot of like hamstrings and groin soft tissue injuries. I was like, I don't think he's injury prone. It's mostly ankles, which is bad luck. You get stepped on. You go and watch the tape. It's like, oh yeah, this guy fucking dove on his ankle. And yeah, no shit, he hurt his ankle. Doesn't matter how fucking strong you are, like you're gonna get hurt in that instance. And then you look at his year this year, he played the whole fucking season, had one of the best seasons ever, and led them to a Super Bowl. Obviously, it's different with their O-line, but the point still stands that this time of the year, people, in my opinion, really overdo the injury thing. Drives me crazy. It's a pet peeve of mine. But it's all good. I get it. I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm right or wrong. RIP says Zeitler be instant vet leadership in the locker room. Facts. Henry Jack, should the Cowboys draft running back Ashton Jeanty and the Texans draft running back Quinshon Judkins? I was planning on writing an article previewing the running back and tight ends room, but my take on the running backs room from a surface level before diving in is I don't think it would be smart to get a running back. But I mean, after seeing a lot of like my, rigid thinking based off this and that, it's like I saw like now I'm questioning everything that I think because like they've shown that they're willing to do whatever the hell they want, But without that thought, I mean, the running back room, I don't see us adding a running back early on. I feel like there's other needs. But things could change. But my mindset is, you keep, I forget, and that's all we can do too is like you just look up the numbers of roster construction. How many running backs do you keep on the 53 man? I know I keep saying 53 man, and we're going to have the full roster for a while, but I'm trying to think long term end goal. I'm trying to think of like, if you don't think a player will be on your 53 man, should you spend X amount or should you draft them at this position essentially? But if you look at the running back room, you got Joe Mixon, and then you got, Joe Mixon first and foremost. We're running Nick Caley and likely a Rams offense. And this is not for sure going to be the case, but you look at them last year with Kyron Williams, the last couple years, he's a bell cow. Like he runs the ball like 30 plus times a game. So already the backup positions mean less just from a snap share standpoint. And Joe Mixon has shown that he can be the bell cow. I was frustrated for one that we kept taking him out on third downs all the time last year. And so that's one point to say, I don't know if a running back adding one early or signing one smart. Another point is Dameon Pierce is number 2. He played decent last year in flashes, and we're expecting more of a gap scheme, which is the downhill running, which is what he's fucking good at. Hey, run hard as fuck straight through this hole. Don't try and read whatever. And so if we do run, more, if we do have more snaps for our backup, Dameon Pierce could be rejuvenated again. We've seen what he looks like when he plays good. So that's another point. And then after that, you got British Brooks coming off injury, who's a running back / fullback. And then you got, we just signed Dare. I know he's a special teamer, but he's, that pass pro guy. So he's your third down back. So that's 3 backs, 4 including British Brooks. And then you got Jawar Jordan, who you drafted like the 5th, 6th round last year, who was on IR all year, but I think he was like injured, but could have played. But then, it made sense to kind of do a settlement or whatever. So, he could enter the lineup as well. And so that's my only thing is like, I get it. I get the logic though. Like, all right, like fuck it, upgrade when you can, but it's all about like what makes the most sense, I guess. So with that logic, I don't see us drafting a running back early. And then I see us maybe getting one late, like 5th, 6th round. But I got to dive more into it. But yeah, I'll scroll through the timeline. Let me finish these comments. Brandon says, watching the Titans and Jags make dumb deals in free agency never gets old. Yeah, new GM, same shit, dude. Let's see. Brandon says, was really hoping to get Stingley and Hunter extended weeks ago. Yeah, and so like as I pointed out earlier, like these contracts, and we've seen it with that's been, in my opinion, Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys' downfall. Like why they're in this spot now is that fucker just waits too long every time, dude. The longer you wait, more guys get paid, the more money you owe them. And we waited a couple weeks, and Hunter's due, and we saw two DNs get paid, and Stingley's due. We saw a corner get paid, so that's tough. Harris Beard says draft Kelvin Banks to be our guard for a year, and then offload Titus and have Banks as LT of future. That would be a sound strategy. I would love that. Resign Foley. Yeah, we need a one tech, and he was solid. So one techs are getting scarce out there. The nose tackle, the big run stopping defensive tackle. Engineer says I'd trade Titus, Schultz, and Autry. Surely you can get something out of these guys. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends, dude. We showed that, and then Henry Jack says, should the Texans sign Chase Young in 2026? I don't know, man. I'm not thinking that far ahead, but my thought is no. Probably too expensive based off name, and D'Amico. I mean, the guy we signed today, like no one really heard of him from the Bears, and he's like underrated. I guarantee that guy balls out. We'll go over his name in a second, but and then Unknown says, can we move that new guy we signed? I think the edge inside, or no? Would he be good in that spot, or is he just pure edge? Pure edge. So like my new process is whenever we get new players or a new player hits the deal, is I go to PFF and I look at like the positional breakdown. So like with that guy, his name's slipping on my mind right now, but when we signed him, I went and looked him up, like saw his grades. Again, grades take with a grain of salt, but I more so look at like you thought. I was like, oh shit, is this guy a true edge, or where does he line up? And I looked at like his alignments. It was like almost all outside, so he's like a true edge. He's not like a Danico Autry who can go tackle and edge. So we have 4 solid defensive ends. We got Will and Daniil, and we re-signed Derek Barnett, and we signed the new guy today as well. O-line needed a reset, culture change. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Let's see. Brandon says, if you look at the contracts for the Jags or Eagles, you can see how we can still pay our guys and have cap space. Yeah, so they, you look at Hurts, so he's all backloaded, but, they're kicking the can down the road. Beard says, could Christian Kirk be extended to save us some money? Yeah, so you can restructure, or I think the wise thing to do would be to scrap the whole deal, which I guess may be the same thing, and extend them. Similar to what we did with Joe Mixon last year, I believe. Backstreet says, this is Jimmy's last year anyway. Let it play out. He'll be on IR half the season. Yeah, and I was surprised, man. D'Amico, like, kind of called him out a little bit. Brandon says, Hurst got paid a ton. I try to talk too fast. Hurst got paid a ton of money, and the Eagles pushed the cap way in the future. Yes. Good point. Beard, Will Fuller is the best injury-prone example. Yeah, or even Tank Dell, like, I don't, those 2 injuries, like, you want to call him injury-prone, like, bro, like, shit. Guy landing on your leg, I don't know what you can do. But yes, no, yeah, he's saying Fuller is an actual injury-prone guy. Yes, because, yeah, he's always pulling his hamstrings and shit. Like, that's on you, bro. Taurus Brooks says, if you have answered this question 1,000 times, but who's the O-line FA that you want? Zeitler. Engineer, one of the reasons I dislike Reddit, everyone last year was talking about Saquon Barkley being an overpay, and I kept saying this guy would transform our offense. Reddit tends to be an echo chamber. Yeah, I'm somewhat new. Like, I try to be involved there. I'm just all over the freaking place, but it seems pretty cultish, cliquish, and if you're not with the wave, they kind of jump on you. The downvotes, I hate when they get fucking downvoted. They seem to not like people arguing back either. If someone like talks shit to me, I talk shit back, and I get downvoted. I get pissed off. Brandon says the Giants GM is probably on Reddit. Facts. That boy Hoodie says Jawar. Yep, Jawar. That's my sleeper, bro. Good change of pace, third down back. Bakari says Pierce will flourish in this offense. I agree, dude. Let's see, Brandon. Still possible the agent made him wait too, though. I'm not sure what he's talking about. And then people are talking about Chase Young being signed. Yeah, I don't know. I got asked a question. I didn't even look at it, but I have no interest in it regardless. Bakari says, I like that we get Hunter and Stingley. Will get an extension. Also trade up to get Tyler Booker, and then back up into the second round to get a receiver. And I think we'll go get Cooper Kupp now. Tyler Booker, I mean, he's falling on some people's draft boards. You may even get him in the second, but I mean, I don't think you need to trade up to get him. I think you either stay there or even trade back and just get 3 or 4 second round picks. And I would say too, Samurai says Ward has missed more games than he's played. He's useless on TikTok. And Michael Stout says, I agree. Just really depends on how the draft falls. Could see them using that late second. I guess they're talking about the draft. Royal says, can we still bring Greenlaw in? No, he's signed. That was crazy to me. You know, because we run a 4-2-5. That means 2 linebackers, and we run it more than any team in the league as our base defense. And we have Aziz, Henry, and Christian Harris, like 3 solid linebackers. Just re-signed Jake Hampton today as a depth piece. But anyways, we had like 3 starting linebackers and only played 2 of them most of the time. So getting a Dre Greenlaw, who probably, you know, is a decent price APY, you know, I think if that move were to be made, there would have been a corresponding move as far as cutting or trading Harris or somebody. That would have been too much investment in a position. So that was interesting to me, but he's gone. Bakari Walker, we must draft a speedster this year. And then, yeah, I will say too, like, y'all know how I am with the positions at receiver, like real analytical, like this guy is this receiver X, you know, Z and slot. We got Nico in the X. I wanted us to get a vet slot. We did. We got it in Kirk, the best value out there at that position. And so now, and then I said I want to get a vet Z, which to me is Justin Watson, and now I want to draft a Z. But I know like names like Cup and Diggs are out there. To me, it's too redundant to go get Cup because he's a heavy slot guy his whole career. So is Christian Kirk. So now if you spend this money on these 2 guys and want to play them a lot, one of them will have to play a position that they're not good at, that they haven't played their whole career for a reason. Like, so to me, it's not like the smartest thing to do. Like now, if you want to go get another big free agent, it needs to be an outside receiver, which Darius Slayton was a guy I wanted for that and went for a good APY, but he's gone. So I really think that we might be done at receiver. And they just draft a guy in the first 3 rounds. That's another outside receiver. Could be wrong. And then, yeah, I was talking about random shit over here. 9.5 sacks. I think that was Chase Young. I don't know why we're talking about Chase Young. But yeah, so let me see. I'll just run through these other things. This is taking a little longer than I thought, but I'll just run through some quick thoughts on all the activity throughout the day. Let me see if I can just scroll to the bottom so we can start in chronological order. And I feel like it's just easiest for me to go through my Twitter timeline because that's kind of the way my brain took in all this information today. So we can just relive the day together. Oh, Puna Ford got signed. Damn it. Yeah, I wanted Puna Ford as my 1-tech nose tackle so bad. Braxton's Barrios girlfriend, pretty hot. That's what I learned today. And so we're at the beginning of my timeline. We will just peruse through here. And DJ Jones, big nose tackle, got signed. And then I made a bunch of guesses on names I thought we might sign today, and only one of them was true. So I made a bunch of guesses like on these value picks. You know, Mo Alley Cox is a tight end that I could see us signing in free agency because he's a good blocker. That's my criteria, essentially. And I will say, too, I feel like, you know, teams often get players from other teams within the division for multiple reasons. One being familiarity. I guess that's the main reason. There's subsets of that reason, but you play them twice a year, so you see them on the field twice a year. So that's a big thing. And then not only do you play them twice a year, but you game plan and watch film on them for 2 weeks leading up to that. So familiarity is a big thing, you know, and I think it's like a subconscious thing. You just, you know, and you want to make a decision on something you know more about. Like they may not be better, but like if you know you have a for sure evaluation on a player, then you can make a decision on that player, yes or no, as opposed to just guessing on someone that you just hear about. Anyways, Mo White Cox, he's a Colts guy. So running back, I said that I don't expect any additions. We need a cornerback 3 who can also play the coverage nickel. We have Petrie as like our nickel, but he's basically a linebacker in that instance. But we need someone like on known passing downs like Miles Bryant last year. And that guy to also be a third stringer. Names that I had are Jonathan Jones, Isaiah Rodgers, who signed, I believe, today, and Eric Stokes. And I base that off of how their grades and the projected value, like a good cheap contract. And those are hard, like these value ones. I mean, because they go deep. Like Nick and D'Amico dig deep on these players. Like that edge rusher, like I could have like thought of like another edge, but like I would have never found that name. And then Justin Walton, I'm mad I didn't think of that name. That's a perfect fit. But then safety, yeah. So safety is another position of need, and these are just the positions that I hadn't addressed in my articles because I wrote an article about the receiver room. The three biggest needs I wrote articles about, which they're still on my site. If you want to see like my take on how to address these rooms in the offseason, receiver, and then I wrote one on O line, and then I wrote one on defensive line, which is mostly defensive tackle. But these are the other positions. Safeties out there. Eric Murray, that's part of the news. Yeah, Eric Murray got fucking paid by the Jags. Idiots, dude. Eric Murray, I think, was underrated. I feel like he gets hated on too much. I felt like he was solid, especially for the contract we had him on, like $1 to $2 million, like fucking steal, dude. But I will say, I mean, regardless, like, like I feel like he had some plays where he gave up big plays. I feel like they stuck with us too much. Like overall, he was a pretty damn good player. Had a lot of passes defense, solid tackler. Shout out Salty Jacks on TikTok. Says, love your content. Appreciate it, bro. Shout out Big West. He says, Petrie was missed after he got hurt. Big facts. I'll write an article at some point this offseason talking about the impact of Jalen Petrie. I mean, that dude's a game changer. We definitely missed his presence on the defense. But at safety, Eric Murray, I thought we'd re-sign for cheap. He got fucking paid. I'm glad we didn't pay him that money. Yeah, I think MJ Stewart's still out there, so he is probably a name we can still look out for as like a reserve, fourth guy. But this safety that I think we need to fill is like basically safety number 3 at high safety. You got Kalen Bullock and Jimmy Ward, and this guy can be like a 2/3. Like he can, be there as insurance. Basically, it can be the Eric Murray role, insurance when Jimmy Ward gets hurt, or take over his spot. Names that I said, again, they fit the position, and not going to be some crazy price contract like Hufanga from San Francisco. I would have loved, but I didn't even mention him because I was like, he's going to be too much. Justin Simmons, oddly enough, we were all over that last year, like as fans, and didn't get him. Now we can maybe get him for cheaper this year. Elijah Molden, I put on there incorrectly, already signed. Andre Cisco, I thought would have been great. Thought we'd do a safety swap. I thought they would get Murray and we get Cisco. I had the meme ready, fired up for a safety swap. Didn't get to do it. So he's scratched off. Julian Blackman, he's on the Colts. He's actually pretty solid. Seems to be underrated. He could be a great fit. Quandre Diggs, another name we looked at last year. It seems like he could be, from some of those parameters, be a fit. And then, I got one right. Yeah, the one I got right was on linebacker. I said, try to re-sign Neville Hewitt and or Jake Hansen. We got Jake Hansen. I got it right. And then I put Devondre Campbell. I mean, that was just like, I know he's the guy that, quit mid-game or retired or whatever. And I think he did it a couple times, but I mean, that would be a flyer. That wouldn't be like rely on this guy. But I mean, maybe it's not worth it. It could be like the scenario where you take a flyer on Deontay Johnson. That was a different situation. We were desperate, but it's one of those things where you can try it. If he acts a fool, just cut him. But yeah, so that's what I had on those. And then we re-signed Sheldon Rankins. Love it. Yeah, so he'll be a starting 3 tech. Him and Settle will be like, I guess we rotate guys in and out so much. But yeah, Sheldon Rankins, like again, I thought we might go with the approach to maybe get a little more splashy at D line on the interior, which we still can get like a higher draft pick. But I mean, the approach last year was we all wanted Christian Wilkins. We knew defensive tackle was our biggest need. We wanted the best guy. We had all this money. We didn't get him. We were all pissed off, myself included. And then he signs, Mario Edward Jr., Tim Settle. He signed Foley Fatukasi as your nose tackle. You sign, you sign all these names that aren't super flashy, and then they all fucking balled out. So I trust him, dude. And this guy is familiar, Sheldon Rankins, with the system. He played well for us when he was with us in 23. But basically on the D line, that's a place where D'Amico can get extreme value. So I'm with it. The deal was up to $7 million. So it sounds like it's got some incentives in it. Without the incentives, like the base, depending on that, it could be kind of pricey, but I think it's a good fit. Yeah, there's the JC Horn news. Resetting the market at corner. And Twitter was down. That was shitty. We talked about Dre Greenlaw. And then Javon Kinlaw was a guy I was high on as a 3-tech that I wanted that could have had high upside. But, I mean, I was looking at Spotrac and their projections. He was like $3-4 million. The guy got fucking paid 3 years, 45 or 3 year, 45. He got paid 15. They were off by like 10 plus million, dude. So, like, I'm basing all these thoughts off of like their projections. They're fucking way off. Golly, wasted all that damn time. But yeah, they definitely overpaid for that, I think. And then Braxton Berrios, that was the big splash signing. So yeah, I kind of have like a somewhat controversial, interesting take on this. I like it, but I guess my feedback on here is like, again, I think analytically, position wise. He's a slot receiver. I looked up his PF. I went on PFF. I looked at his slot percentage usage is like 50, 60%. I know he's a backup, but he's a special teamers, but he does play offense too. You need to play both to have value. And so I was like, okay, well, shit, we got fucking Christian Kirk as our slot. We got John Mechie as a slot. Like both those guys run 50+% slot in recent years. So now that's 3. You only keep 6 receivers, maybe 7. Last year we did that. We kept an extra one in Steven Sims, and he was basically only a special teams return guy. And we saw how that turned out for us. And, it kind of burned us. And so I would hope we don't keep 7 receivers again, with one of them being Berrios as only a return guy. I would hope that he would be a slot and a return guy. But anyways, there's 3 main receiver positions: X, slot, and Z. 2, 2, and 2. That's the most rational way to think about it. 2 X's, Nico and Hutch. 2 slots, which we'll go back to that. 2 Z's, Justin Watson, and I don't know who'd be right now, but hopefully Justin Watson and draft pick. And then slot could be, as it stands now, you got 3 of them. So, I mean, do they compete for that spot? This is where it hurts Mechie for not being a returner. Like now, like they always talk about the more you can do, the better. But like Mechie can't return kicks. Like he could be moved on from potentially if Berrios outperforms him in camp, if he doesn't, adapt to this scheme or make strides, or maybe they trade him. I don't know. I mean, I just said this could be bad news for John Mechie. I don't know what will happen, but from like a position standpoint, like now that room is stacked, the slot receiver room. And I don't, again, like same logic as like going and signing a Cooper Kupp now. Yeah, you could keep Mechie on the roster, and I think he has played some outside in the past, but to me, he's a slot receiver. His skill set, it's all best used in the slot. So could you keep both those guys and kick one out there? But yeah, it's not the best use for them. So Unknown says, Garrett, loving the live stream, but hopping off. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mostly wanted to get this going just to get some audio to get a podcast out. I mean, obviously to talk to you guys, but now I just can't, once I get on here, it's like I'm having too much fun. That boy Booby says Javon Hargrave. Yeah, that's a good name. I need to look more into. I know I don't know why on my initial, I think he might have been cut too, and that's the other thing too. Like go through all these names and then guys get cut and traded, and you don't have them on your radar. So Engineer says my ideal draft would be Golden first round. That would be dope. Tate second round, and no idea what happens after. Yeah, I mean I would be down for that, dude. I would be down for that. And then Royal Sama Makuba. Yeah, I'd be down for that. Yeah, I've been mocking him. I think you're getting him like in the, I mean, depending on which one. PFF, I've done a couple. I get him like in the 4th round, dude. Sorry, I had a thing in my mouth. Yep. So then we re-signed Derek Barnett. Love it. 1 year, $5 million. Steal. Touchdown machine. 2 touchdowns last year. And then I pointed out that we could potentially get a compensatory pick this year. I'll try and do an article on it, or it would be for next year. But basically, it's like a formula, and it's like net the amount of guys you sign and guys you lose. So like if we sign, $10 million worth of guys in free agency, but then we had guys that contracts expired and became free agents, and they go on to sign for a total of 20 million. Like they use that formula, that difference, to give you a comp pick in the next year's draft. It's only for guys that are actual free agents, not cut. So if you had a guy cut or like a void year like Stefan Diggs, they are not eligible for your equation for your comp pick. So like it would have been nice, like Stefan Diggs goes somewhere and gets paid 18 however many million, and that went towards our formula. But because of the void years, it doesn't work that way. But I'm trying to think, what's his face? Eric Murray. He was a free agent, not cut, no void years. That goes towards our formula. And then on the flip side, if we sign players that were cut, that doesn't go on the negative counting against us side. So all that for, a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick. But anyways, that's some nerd shit. Bears solidified their interior line, got Dahlman. Trayman Smith, we signed him to a 2-year deal. He is a special teamer. So Casera loves those special teamers. And then let's see, Darnold to the Seahawks. Saw that coming. You got the connection with Clint Kubiak in that scheme. I was mad that the Rams got Puna Ford. They got a sneaky good old D-line. Not even sneaky good. They got a damn good D-line. I said I would have liked Hufanga, but his price was too high. He signed a 3-year, $45 million deal with who was it with? Let's see. Hufanga. It was with the Broncos. Yes, that's what I thought. I didn't want to get it wrong. Yeah, and then I talk about Murray helping our formula for the comp pick. And then Patrick McCarry was a target that a lot of us had for interior O-line. He went to the Jaguars for 3-year, $37.5 million. So he's around $12 million APY, which I think was a little high for him. But I think that's good for, our interest in the other guys. And then let's see. And then we had Banks get Aaron Banks signed with the Packers. He signed a steep one, 4-year, $77 million, which is $19 million APY. So now we're kind of getting some interior guys getting paid. And then let's see what else we got. And then we got the Tunsil trade, and that's when fucking all hell broke. Oh my God, I was going through trying to make more out of these things and make it about the Texans. Like, okay, this is bombshell news. That's when Twitter freaking broke right there. But yeah, so and the return, and I don't know if this is still confirmed or not, but Rossini initially said this: we traded LT in a 4th round next year for a 3rd next year. And then a 7th, or I'm sorry, a 3rd. I'm an idiot. LT in a 4th this year, and we got a 3rd this year, a 7th this year, a 2nd next year, and a 4th next year. And so I feel like people said that some of that stuff's wrong, but that's just what it says on there. And then keep scrolling up, posting stuff about Tunsil. I'll probably include a lot of that in my article. And yep, Titus Howard said, I'm sick right now on IG after the news. He was stressing. Yeah, we saved $41.9 million over 2 years from the Tunsil trade. And yep, the guy we signed, Daryl Taylor. I don't know if it's Daryl or Darrell. I'll guess Darrell Taylor. But he seems like a very underrated guy. Familiar with owning the Titans, so I'll take that. And then right after that, we signed Justin Watson. Y'all heard my thoughts on that. What else we got? Yeah, so our D-line room D-in room is pretty stacked. It was announced that Cup is to be released by the Rams Wednesday. Shocker. We all knew that was coming. Let's see here. Ryan Kelly, potential target for some of us. Center from the Colts. He signed with the Vikings. He signed a 2-year, $18 million deal. Almost done here. Let's see. This is what I was talking about, like Justin Watson. You can use him like in the insert motion. And so when I say insert motion, it's where are we going? It's when in this case, it's a trip set, but like when the outside receiver motions down into the box and blocks to the C gap, you got the A, B, C gap. And basically I may have done the gaps wrong there. See that? Receiver blocking. And so Puka is about the same size as Justin Watson. That's not me saying that Justin Watson is Puka, but I'm saying he can play that role where he can motion in and now get physical and block backers. And then Darius Slayton, that was a guy I was high on, went for 12 million APY. He was talking about getting like 18 million APY. That was a steal. Yeah, Jacob shared some stuff about Titus playing left tackle. Yeah, let's watch him.
The back, he gets the carry, finds a hole, and to the back.
Titus, he had 244 snaps in 2021, and he allowed just 2 pressures.
The back, he gets the carry, finds a hole, and to the back.
I don't know where he's at on this one. Where'd he go? Oh, he's pulling. Wow, we pulled a tackle. That's weird. That's back when we had like a gap running scheme. Hey, what do you know? Tunsil down there.
Johnson out.
There. Okay.
Time for Mills and open. Head coach David Culley. They need 2.
Where's he at?
There's plenty of blocking up front. Head coach David Culley.
Oh, he's pulling again, dude. Bro, that's the other part of this shit. Is like now we can start running gap scheme where you pull guys a lot. You run counters. You run powers. Yeah, dude, I'm freaking pumped. You run whams. You run traps. Like you start pulling linemen, get them on the run, and just run people over, dude. Look at this shit. The 2 runs on here are him pulling right here. Left tackle, he's going to pull to the other side and fucking run somebody over.
Head coach David Culley, they need 2 for the first down.
I mean, he didn't run him over, but I mean, you now have a big guy. That didn't look super crazy impressive, but he got the job done. That's got me excited.
Seattle with 7 tackles so far. Time.
That's pretty good. Okay, Titus. I mean, it's not, we'll take that, dude. Look at this. Push that fucker on the ground, bitch. All right. I'm about to go watch some Titus Howard left tackle tape this week. Yeah, and then here's the homeboy we got. I need to learn his name. I feel like an idiot. I'm over here bragging about how good he is, and I keep forgetting his fucking name. Here's homeboy from the Bears, defensive end, 52. Ooh, that was sick. Look at that. Quick ass spin move on that left guard, causing a pick. All right, on this one, he's on the right edge on the top of your screen. Let's see. This is posted by Harley. Shout out Harley. Ooh. Oh, old Mayo boy. He's on the right edge on this one. Right here on the right. Oh, a little hezzy. You see that shit? What the hell's this tackle doing, dude? He's helping when he doesn't need to. But yeah, he fakes the move inside. He falls for it, freezes, boom. A little swat, bend the corner. That's pretty damn good. Strip sack. Angle of it. Or that's another play. Okay. Good hand fighting. Damn, he almost got that too. And then he finished the play. Damn, dude. That's swarm right there. Ah, shit. Against the Texans. I was at this game. Ah, shit. This is on LT, dog. Oh, shit. Look at this. How funny is that? Oh, God. This is crazy. Let's see. He didn't even do a move. He just ran right by him. Well, I guess he got blocked. I mean, that wasn't really crazy impressive, but okay, that's a hold. Oh, still got there. What's the penalty on? Anyways, yeah, dude's pretty good. I need to remember his name. Someone told me his name in the chat. I already forgot. Uh, let's see. There's just so much information you take in throughout the day, you forget shit. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, it's fucking 12:15. I'm an idiot, dude. Yeah, I'm just trying to cover it all. Maybe I'll try and do this every day this week. But uh, James Daniels was a target that we wanted from the Steelers, come off an Achilles, but he went to the Dolphins for 3 year, $24 million. Darrell Taylor, thank you, Brandon. I'm an idiot. Darrell Taylor. He's a beast. Barrios has got a babe of a girlfriend. This ain't text. Somehow I'm just now hearing of her. I guess she's like a famous podcaster, but yeah, I think that is almost all of it. Just scroll to the top. Yep, that's it, man. I appreciate you guys, man. Shit, that's fucking 1,745 people tuned in on Twitter. That's not including TikTok, and I think Instagram is not included either. So that's crazy. Love you guys. Thank you all so much. If you're stressing, I just say be patient. You'll be blessing soon. We'll be good. I know it's hard, but trust in Nick. If you don't, everything will be fine. What it all comes down to at this point is we have the quarterback and the head coach. We're good at the very least. D'Amico and CJ. And then as far as like the receiver room, like if you're getting worried about it, even if it like doesn't get built out great, if we reinforce our O-line, reinforce our run game, CJ now has time to throw the ball. And this is not me an excuse saying like don't improve the room any further, but if it doesn't get better, it's still going to be better than last year based off those things. So I think we'll be all right. We're all good. Appreciate you guys. I will see y'all tomorrow. Let me see. I'm trying to say bye. Yeah. See y'all tomorrow.